Reporter has found that the Maplewood City Council has actually, in the last month of June 2010, has violated the open meeting law on 3 separate occasions. And of course, this, for those of you who watch the Maplewood City Council meetings currently, you're probably not surprised whatsoever. Some of the adjectives that I have heard used with regard to the current council that we have now in Maplewood is arrogant, disdainful of citizens, and just not engaged. And so, of course, with all of those adjectives in mind, it's not surprising that there have been violations of the open meeting law and that the elected officials are either oblivious or could care less. We have with us some film footage to show of these various meeting violations. Also, we have some other film clips that we want to share with you as well. And as usual, we'll show a few film clips, we'll give some commentary, and then we'll come back. But the point of this, of course, is to be able to give you a more in-depth understanding of exactly what is going on so that you, as a citizen, can be an informed viewer of what you see on public access TV when you're watching your elected officials at work, so that you, too, may want to join us and be a citizen reporter. So let's get started with our film footage. We have about 30 clips. We may not make it to all of them, but at least let's take a stab at it and see how far we can get. So let's get going with our first film clips, and this, of course, I believe is from the recent City Council meeting in June. Let's take a look.
With our Economic Development Authority, and we have 3 different things that we're being asked to speak about. And Mr. Nephew?
Yeah, I have a procedural question on these items related to the EDA. I'm just wondering, are we doing these as the City Council, or do we adjourn as City Council and enact these things like establishing bylaws as the EDA?
Now, of course, this is the City Council meeting from June 14th, 2010. And let's back up a step so that you can understand where we are at the meeting. In this meeting of the City Council, they have come to the point on their agenda where they have to enact certain things for the EDA, the Economic Development Authority, which, of course, by coincidence and by design, the EDA, of course, is the same membership as the council. So the members who are on the EDA are exactly the same people who are on the council. They're one and the same. But they are 2 distinct bodies, and the EDA was created by ordinance by the City Council. Now, the issue is, of course, is that now the EDA has never met yet as a body to be able to pass their bylaws, to be able to elect officers, to be able to, vote on their policy and procedure. And so at this meeting, council meeting on the agenda, they have listed on the agenda that these are the things that the council needs to take care of for the EDA body. However, as Councilmember Nephew brings up, well, maybe this is problematic because since it really is, there are really 2 different boards, maybe the EDA should really be meeting of its own as a body and do these things rather than the council doing it for the EDA. Now, I think Councilmember Nephew is correct in that it's a separate body. It should meet separately, that the council should not be enacting things for a body it isn't at that time. However, this is where the problem is that you heard Councilmember Nephew talk about, well, let's just adjourn the City Council meeting and then we'll have a meeting of the EDA. The problem is that under the Minnesota open meeting law, it clearly and specifically states that if your governing body is going to be meeting, they have to give public notice of those meetings 72 hours in advance. They have to be posted at the location in the city that's been designated for the posting of public meetings. In the case of Maplewood, that is, of course, in the entryway of City Hall. Doing it on the city website is not good enough, and then that's the way it has to be posted. But however, this has not been posted that way. So let's continue on and find out, what does the council do?
I think it'd probably be appropriate to adjourn yourselves and do this as an acting EDA. You are just essentially switching hats, but it'd be appropriate to do that.
That being the case, I'll offer a motion to adjourn.
Now, of course, that voice that you heard, that is the city attorney, Alan Cantrud, who is giving them the advice. Yes, it probably would be good to adjourn your city council meeting and then convene as the EDA, except that the city attorney failed to let them know that, of course, the EDA is subject to the open meeting law, and it has not been posted as a separate meeting for the EDA. And of course, the moment that they do indeed commence the meeting of the EDA without having posted it in compliance with law, they are actually in violation of the open meeting law. Now, why didn't the city attorney tell them that? Who knows? Well, let's continue on, because you heard Councilmember Nephew made that motion. Let's adjourn the city council meeting.
The city council
Motion, which I have seconded, that we actually would adjourn the council meeting and take on the role as the Economic Development Authority, and that our adjournment of the council meeting would last until we get done with the Economic Development Authority business. Any discussion about that? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? It carries ayes all.
Now, what's interesting, of course, in all of this is that nobody has brought it out and said this, but that when you close a city council meeting and you say, or end a city council meeting rather, and you adjourn it, you have ended the council meeting. This is not saying we are going to take a recess, that we are making a motion to recess the meeting and then we're coming back. It said we are adjourning. That means the city council meeting is done. It's ended, fini. That's it. So let's see where they go from here.
Take one chair to the left or something, so that you can tell that it's different.
That's good. I'll be off the end of the table.
So now, we are, now here's the Economic Development Authority, and so Michael, would you have a presentation?
Mayor, Council, the Maplewood Area Economic Development Authority was established by ordinance at the City Council meeting on July 27, 2009. This ordinance requires the authority to adopt a rules of procedure and elect officers. The first action that is being requested tonight is for the authority to adopt its rules of procedures. Each of the city's boards and commissions operate under adopted rules of procedures, and staff has included a draft version of the authority's rules of procedures for review and adoption tonight. Staff is available for any questions the authority may have on the draft version of the rules of procedure for the Maplewood Area Economic Development Authority. With that, I'll give it back to the authority for any questions or comment.
Mr. Nephew, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I have a couple questions on the rules. Under item B3 of the proposed rules, it says, talking about the calling of special meetings. I'm wondering if, so the way that it's written, it says that it may be called by the chairperson or in his or her absence by the vice chair or by any other member with the concurrence of a majority of members. And so that...
Now, of course,
Any other member?
This is Council Member Nephew talking about, he's got a question about the proposed rules that the staff is asking them to enact. And of course, one of the issues that he's bringing up, which shows you that he is very cognizant of what the open meeting law is all about, is that if you're calling a special meeting and it's by the majority of the members on the board, well, obviously that means that they have conferred together, a majority of them, without being in a bona fide meeting that's been posted properly. And so that means that actually, in order to call a meeting, they have violated the open meeting law. And that is the point that Mr. Nephew is getting at, which in my mind clearly shows that he knows what the open meeting law is, he's cognizant of it, he understands the ramifications of it, and certainly he doesn't want to adopt rules and procedures for the new EDA that would be in violation of the open meeting law, because you could actually put your finger on that, and certainly you could perhaps find it much easier to prosecute a case against the city council with that kind of written a paper trail. However, he didn't bring up anything with the fact of knowing all of this, that they are now operating in violation of the open meeting law by having called a meeting of the EDA without having posted it properly. So, anyway, little food for thought. Let's continue on.
Occurrence of a majority of members, and so that seems problematic to me from the standpoint of having to establish a quorum in order to agree to call a meeting and running afoul of the open meeting law. So I guess
See? See? What did I tell you? And we would be running afoul of the open meeting law. Oh, heaven forbid, Councilmember Nephew, running afoul of the open meeting law. And yet later, a week from this very meeting when they violated the open meeting law twice, a week later, they violated it again the following Monday. Now, we do not have film footage of that violation, however, with us tonight on the program. However, we do have film footage of that in our video archives, and we are putting it up on YouTube as well. So, let's continue on with the film footage. Again, this is from the council meeting of June 14th, 2010.
the standard rules of procedure of the city council of any two members other than the chair being able to call a meeting or able to call a special meeting. The other problematic thing I thought in there was when it comes to calling a meeting as opposed to being at a meeting, I'm not sure how you would establish that the chair is absent, since presumably everyone is absent, since you're not meeting. So again, I guess I would say that
What exactly is he talking about? If one is absent, then they're all absent because they're not at the meeting? I think what it means that if they're absent, it means the same as it means when you have the city council, that somebody is out of town. I think that's the meaning of being absent. Of course, if you're not in the meeting, everybody is absent. That is not, I think, what is being questioned here. Come on, Mr. Nephew, let's get real. Continue on.
Has made a motion, Ms. Wozliak, who seconded it, and it would be to approve our rules of procedure with the changes that we just talked about. Any further discussion needed on that item? All in favor of that, say aye. Aye. Okay.
Well, there you go. Ayes all. No controversy, no challenge, nobody asking for anything different. Although they did all agree on one thing. They didn't want to violate the open meeting law in the rules and procedures, so let's make sure that our rules and procedures are in conformance with Minnesota law. Well, that's good. But let's see where they go with the rest of the meeting, because now keep in mind, they've already adjourned their city council meeting.
Now, what would be the appropriate way to handle the election of officers?
The council, or the rules of procedure that were just adopted, do state that a chairperson and vice chairperson should be elected every year. Since this is the first meeting of the Economic Development Authority, we would look for voice nominations. If one or more occurred for each position, then we would look for a motion or a vote. If one person for each position rises, then we could look for a motion just to confirm those. But we'd be looking for the council or the